So, what if two completely different images, separated by centuries, actually showed the very same face? I mean, one is this ancient, haunting relic of suffering, and the other, well, it's a modern photograph that seems to show a glimpse of pure glory. The big question is, could they both be Jesus? Yeah, look at this. On one side, you have this faint, almost ghostly imprint on a piece of ancient linen. You can just feel the suffering. But then, on the other side, there's this photograph taken in a pretty ordinary room, but the person in it, they're serene, almost glowing. It's a huge contrast. So, could these really be glimpses of the same person? We're talking about Jesus Christ, maybe before his death and then after his resurrection. I'm telling you, the story that connects these two images, it might just change how you see everything. All right, let's dive right in. Here's how we're going to break this down. First, we'll tackle the ancient mystery of the shroud. Then we'll jump forward in time to the modern photograph. After that, we're going to put them side by side and see if they tell one single story. And finally, we'll get into what it all means for faith when you don't have that definitive, hard proof. Okay, first up, the Shroud of Turin. And let me tell you, this thing is probably one of the most studied and honestly most debated artifacts in all of human history. For real. So what are we looking at? It's a 14-foot-long piece of linen cloth. And on it, there's this faint image of a man who was crucified. You can see both his front and his back. It's been kept safe in the Turin Cathedral since way back in 1578. So the shroud's known history starts around 1354, when it was first shown in France. It went through a lot. It even survived a fire and was moved to Turin. But their real drama, the scientific storm, kicked off in 1898, and that debate is still raging. In 1988, carbon dating tests suggested it was from the Middle Ages, but then as recently as 2022, a different kind of X-ray study came out suggesting it might be from the 1st century after all. The mystery just keeps getting deeper. Okay, and this is where the story gets absolutely wild. Back in 1898, a photographer named Secondo Pia is in his darkroom, developing pictures he took of the shroud. And as the image appears, he's just stunned. He realizes the image on the cloth itself is a photographic negative. So when he develops it, what appears on his photographic plate is a clear, detailed, positive image of a man's face. No exaggeration, this one discovery changed everything. And the level of detail is just, it's chilling. When you look closely, the shroud shows all these forensic marks that line up perfectly with what we know about Roman crucifixion. You can see wounds from being scourged, puncture marks from nails, even a piercing in the side. It's like a silent, detailed witness to the passion. All right, now let's pivot. We're going to jump from this ancient, mysterious artifact to a much more modern mystery. I want you to meet Sister Anna Ali and the absolutely extraordinary photograph that's connected to her story. Sister Anna was born in Kenya back in 1966. She gave her whole life to God. And in the late 1980s, when she was in Rome, something truly incredible started happening. She began to experience apparitions of Jesus himself. So here's the story she tells. On September 8th, 1987, Jesus appeared to her, but this time in a luminous, glorified form. And then he did something you just wouldn't expect. He apparently allowed her to take his picture with just a simple Kodak camera. And why? The whole point, she said, was to inspire people to convert and to grow in their love for the Eucharist. And get this, it wasn't just a one-time thing. There were more apparitions. During one of them, the image of Jesus she had photographed apparently began to weep tears of blood. A really powerful message about how important the Eucharist is. Sister Anna wrote all of this down in her journals, which she called the Divine Appeal. Sister Anna's life was really defined by this profound faith and also a lot of suffering, and it all centered around the Eucharist. She passed away in 2012, and today there's actually a process underway in Kenya to declare her a saint, although it's still in the very early stages. Okay, so now for the big moment. What happens when we take these two incredible images, the ancient shroud and the modern photograph, and put them right next to each other? Well, the results are pretty startling. When you actually overlay the two faces, the similarities are just undeniable. I mean, the proportions of the face, the placement of the eyes, the nose, the mouth, even the shape of the beard and the hairline, they just line up in a way that's really, really hard to just dismiss as a coincidence. But the differences are just as important and just as profound. The shroud clearly shows a man after death, his body covered in the marks of torture. That's the crucified Christ. But the photograph, that's a living man. His face is peaceful, it's luminous, it's the risen Lord. Two totally different states of being. And this is really where it all clicks into place with Christian theology. The resurrection wasn't just bringing a dead body back to life. It was a total transformation. The idea is that the body becomes glorified, it's perfected, but it's still the same person, the same identity is preserved. So it makes sense, right? You have one image of the passion and another of the eternal victory. So you might be wondering, with all this fascinating stuff, what does the Catholic Church officially say? Well, as you can probably guess, they're always very, very careful. Okay, so with the shroud, the Vatican's official position is neutral. They have never claimed it's the authentic burial cloth of Christ. What they do is protect it, they preserve it, and they encourage people to venerate it as a powerful reminder of what Christ suffered. But they're also super clear that our faith rests on the resurrection itself, not on any relic or object. That being said, popes have talked about it with just incredible reverence. Pope John Paul II called it a mirror of the gospel, and more recently, Pope Francis called it an icon of a man scourged and crucified. So deep respect, but still, no official declaration on its authenticity. And Sister Anna's photograph? Well, the Vatican hasn't made any official ruling on that either. Her experiences fall into a category called private revelation. And what that means is that Catholics are totally free to believe it or not. It's not required for faith. And while her cause for sainthood is moving forward at the local level, the Universal Church has not given any official stamp of approval to the apparitions themselves. So where does that leave us? In the end, does it really matter if we can prove 100% that these images are historical or miraculous? Maybe not. Maybe what matters more is the truth that they both point toward. And that's the truth of a God who loved us so much that he suffered and died for us, and then conquered death itself to offer us a share in that eternal life. Look, these images, they don't give us the certainty of a lab report. They're not scientific proof, but they might offer something even more powerful. An invitation to an encounter. You know, in a world that feels so divided and broken sometimes, maybe looking at these faces can remind us that even in our deepest wounds, there's always the promise of victory, that even in the face of death, there is life. So my hope is that these faces might inspire in you a deeper faith, a more resilient hope, and a renewed commitment to love the way he loves. Thank you so much for joining me on this incredible journey. If this story moved you at all, please think about sharing it with someone you know who might need a little bit of hope today. And may the peace of the risen Christ be with you now and always.